Hello and welcome to Promax Asia, first of a series of webinars where you'll hear from industry experts on subject that matters to you, your work, and your region. This is the recording of our guest presenter, Tim Hughes, who talked to us about how we can better communicate in this challenging time. We were delighted that over 300 of you joined us that day. For those watching this for the first time, we hope you enjoy it too.
Let's get started. This is the presentation we're talking about today. We're talking about marketing in the age of COVID. We've gone through our COVID safety and security. We've talked about the three things we're going to talk about today are going to be industry, well-being, and then fans. I told you who I am. I'm the brief doctor. That's a picture of me talking. One thing I will caveat is I talk very quickly, and if English is not your first language and I'm going too fast, then flag up to Andy and he will slow me down. That is the picture of me with lots of awards, which you are all going to win after we've gone through today's presentation. Now it works. And this is the picture of me that's hilarious with my Auntie Bertha, who looks like Dustin Hoffman in the movie Tootsie. So that gets us to the start of the presentation. So what do we know about the times that we're quarantined? We're corona-teamed at the moment. Most people around the world are locked down. Those are your audiences. So let's look at how the industry is faring. So globally, across the industry, television viewing is up. Now it's benefiting greatly the streaming services, the on-demand services. So if you speak to Nielsen, who is the global rating company, they're estimating that audiences are up by about 65%. Now, generally, the ones that are benefiting the most are those streaming services, the big Netflix, the ones that you can binge view, you can go in, you can access lots of content and you can watch it in your own time. But that doesn't mean traditional viewing is not up. It is. And there are big areas that's really succeeding. So as you might imagine in lockdown, news is massive. News and current affairs. People want to know what's going on, but it can be quite worrying. So what is also really high is kids viewing. Is that because people are using the television as a surrogate babysitter? And also entertainment viewing. So feature films, particularly old archive feel-good films are doing well. And big shows like The Masked Singer, America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, those sort of escapism shows are doing really well. What is not doing really well is ad revenue. So if you're an ad-driven business or if you're a dual revenue business, you're losing a lot of money. And that is going to be a real concern for your chief finance officer. And remember, we all work in marketing. When finance gets scared, the first budget they try and cut is marketing. So what we need to do as marketeers is we need to prove that we understand our audiences, and by targeting them specifically and helping them throughout the crisis, we are not a cost area for the business. We are a revenue generating member of the business. So remember, production is not happening. So what is going to happen when shows dry up, particularly for those streaming services that are doing so well now? Are their viewers going to churn off them and cause them financial chaos in 3 months' time? Remember, at the moment, sport is not happening, and sport is one of the biggest drivers of pay TV. So the whole economy of television production is in chaos. So how are we going to win our way out of this? We're going to win our way out of this by creativity, by understanding what our viewers want and what they need and delivering it to them. So what about our viewers? When you've ever been to a Promax or a brief doctor session before, there are 3 words that we really like marketeers to always consider. And these 3 words are very, very simple. They are who, what, and why. And this is the whole marketing story. If you understand how to use these words in your own businesses and keep asking these questions, it will help you develop creative that works your way out of this corona crisis. So this is the first question I want to ask you. As a marketeer, who are you targeting? When you're speaking to your audience, who is the member of the public that you want to specifically target, and think about their life stage. How have they been affected by Corona? Has it changed the way they work? Has it changed the way they live? Has it changed their childcare? What is it that is emotionally driving for that person to come into your channel, to come into your brand? What are you telling? What are you specifically selling to your audience? What we're asking you to do is think about, in this time of need, what do you need to deliver for the business? Is that specific ratings? Is that a feel-good message? Is that a... Are you doing it? What is the relevance to every project that you undertake? This is a filter that I like marketeers to look at when they're considering what they're going to make. What does the business want? What does the brand want? What does the audience want? Or in this time of Corona crisis, what does the audience need? Do they need some support? Do they need some hand-holding? And finally on this, what do you want? This is one of the things out of this session that I really want to bring out, is you as marketers for channels in this unprecedented time are experiencing a totally different way of working. And it is not easy. You need to self-care. You need to work out what you want personally to achieve as a marketer. So we're going to come back to that right at the end. What all this information gives us is a brief, and a brief poses a problem that creative seeks to solve. So everything that we're talking about today about strategy is about working out what you need to achieve in order to make better communications. And there are 3 words that I'm going to talk about specifically that I've identified as the things that audiences need in this time. So the first one is empathy. Now, this is empathy for you as brands, for you as channels, to understand the situation that people are in, how it's changed their lives, how they're responding to it, and what else you can do. If you can understand your audience, and bear in mind that your social media is a really good gauge of this. What are people talking about? What are people worried about? This is where you can start to lift your brand story and start developing creative that really gets the hearts and minds of the audience. The next thing is compassion. How are you behaving as a brand? Can you be more compassionate? What are you doing for the efforts of the Corona? Are you donating things? Are you donating PPE? Are you donating masks? Do you have some money within the business that you can have as a hardship fund or an artistic fund? Is there something that your talent can be doing to actually go out and get into the real lives of people? Compassion is a really big story here. But what I also want to get the point across here is that while we're looking at compassionate brands and we're talking about telling a really great story that we're all in it together, this is how we can support you. We are not charities. You are selling generally an entertainment product. So although we want to create an environment that is exciting, that is inclusive, that is helping our viewers through the journey, what we're not is charities. We're not NGOs. So we shouldn't be stopping everything we're doing and changing everything to little films about people's personal journeys. That's not going to help anyone. It's a bit navel gazing, to be honest. The final thing that I want to talk about in those 3 sections is distraction. What we are wonderful at as television channels, as entertainment broadcasters, is distraction. What we can give to our viewers is great content, exciting journeys, a move away from the lockdown, a move away from all this negativity and impact on their life. The main thing we can do as television makers, as entertainment people, is we can distract them. We can actually, we're not going to go out and save lives, but what we can do is we can give you a half hour of entertainment. We can give you a great experience on social media. We can really super serve what we're really good at, which is entertainment. You know, Promax is the global entertainment marketing organization. That is what we do. We can make, without taking away from the virus, we can make the experience much more pleasant for our viewers. Which brings us on to the whole concept of fans, which is what I wanted to talk to you today about. So this is the fun bit, kind of workshop bit that I want you to sort of do with your teams I was going to say when you get back to the office, but there is no getting back to the office. So this is what you can take away from today and start developing your Corona marketing strategies with. So I asked this question, if we were in a Promax, stage workshop, I'd get you to shout answers back, but I can't do that. So I'm going to imagine it myself. What is the best thing about fans? And the best thing about fans is that they are loyal and they will fight your corner. They will sell your product for you. Once a fan gets into something, they stick with it. So here's my example here. It's a Nike trainer. Generally, people are either Nike or Adidas or whoever your brand is. You go for one brand and you live their story. So is fans a way of generating marketing for free? That's a question I get asked all the time. And yes, they are, if you service them right. So fans are people who love your brand, love your content, love the way you tell the story, and then you start to engage them. So I don't think there's anything such as a totally free fan, but if they love your brand, they will tell their story to someone else. I would say it goes viral, but it doesn't seem to be appropriate at this very moment. So if you want to serve your fans for free, you can start giving them exclusive bits of content. So what is it that you as marketing people, you within your content, can give away that will encourage your fans to tell your story? And we'll start looking at that in some detail. But that can include anything from exclusive content, competitions to meet talent, competitions to go on set, competitions to win merchandise. It can be discounts, it can be exclusive offers, it can be the whole gamut of marketing ephemera that you can engage with your audience on. So let's talk about where fans come from. We've already decided that sport is not happening at the moment, but one of the big things, if you are a sports fan, is you generally are a fan of a team for life. What can you do as a marketeer to utilize that fan base? Is the things that you can do to generate more money for the business by utilizing your fan and their experience? Sport is a great example because you can get into all sorts of areas of product placement, of apparel sales, of shirts, of sponsorship, of players. It's a great area that allows you to really build fans and to engage with them. Drinks brands. Everyone who goes to the pub, whether you drink alcohol or not, doesn't matter. You all have a go-to drink. Now, that's something that unites people. And what we're trying to look in this area of COVID is things that bring people together. Can you start building communities based on things they like? Also bear in mind, if your role is a marketing role that involves getting sponsorship money in or advertising money, drinks brands are big spenders. If you can engage a relationship with them now, despite the fact they might not be spending so much, you can bring them back into the business later on. This is where the CFO is going to say, my God, marketing kept that relationship with our drinks brand. We now, as we come out of it, are making money out of this. This is where you can be the hero of the business. So music, who do you rock out to? Music is a big leveler of fans. So think about the landscape and the soundscape of what your Corona experience is going to be like. Is there something that you can develop that really gets into your audience's soundscape? Is there something with podcasts or a music partner or the way your social media works? Is there sort of a soundtrack that you can develop from a brand's point of view to help get your viewers or fans through Corona? It's all just food for thought. Who are you wearing? This is one of the big things with fans. We're talking about a $7 billion global industry with fashion. No one's buying fashion at the moment, but fashion is still very important to a lot of people. So is there something that you can work with your fan base, with your viewers, particularly if you run a lifestyle channel or a general entertainment channel? Is there things that you can link to program content about upscaling, upcycling, making your own things? There's a big thing at the moment about making your own fashion masks. Are there things that you as a brand can either work with a partner or work with your audience's interest levels to bring that out and to keep that conversation going? Same with perfume, with smells. Is there something that you can do that unites the senses? Is there something that you can think of creatively that actually thinks, what does this period in time mean to you? I remember a time in the early 90s that everyone wore a fragrance called CK1. It was Calvin Klein's fragrance, the first unisex fragrance. And for me, and for a lot of people of my age, that was an evocative smell of the time. What can you do as marketeers that is evocative, that makes you reflect on your brands, on your air, the moment in time? This is a really big area that you can get into with fan bases, which is, what is technology? What is that people can't live without? So in this time of Corona, in this time that you can't get into the office, you can't be making stuff, is there new technology or new services that you could be looking at that your audience would really go for? Now, that could be apps, that could be podcasts, that could be little games, it could be little throwaway things. And these don't have to cost massive amounts of money. They can be free, or they can be partnered with someone. It's just thinking about, in this lockdown experiences, are there different medias, different technology that you can tap into? This is a really big, interesting one that you can't get outside. Where do you shop? What do you buy? One of the big stories that we've got is bog roll, toilet paper. You know, people were hoarding this. You couldn't get it for love nor money. So are there funny things or little pertinent things that you can get into the zeitgeist and tell that story with your brand? It helps you connect closer to your audience. And what do you love? This is a really easy one. With your fan base, if you build this sense of love that you're going to reflect in your promotions, in your creative, in your social media stories, things that they are doing off air, they are building this friendship with you that means they are more receptive to your message that you're delivering to on air. A few things to think about as well in this whole spectrum of different things happening. Who is in your family? People are locked down with different people. You know, one of the traps that we as marketeers fall into a lot is that we make assumptions about our audiences based on our own experience. But lots of people have totally different family relationships than we do. Think about niche groups, minority groups within your audience that you can really build a fan base with. If you can touch people's hearts or really show their experience, they are much more likely to build a much deeper relationship with your brand. And then who's in your tribe? It's not just family. People have all sorts of different interest groups, different lifestyle groups outside of the norm that we might say. Think about how you can engage those different people to spread your brand message by caring for them. And then this is one of the areas that I really like to get on. If you've ever seen the Brief Doctor sessions, you will know I show a lot of cat videos. Think about other things in people's lives that they are engaging with now. Lots of people are at home with pets. How can pets behave for you? Remember, the internet is driven by crazy cat videos. There are areas that if you take outside of what you would think the normal experience is, which is, bear in mind that when we get this idea of Corona, we're thinking people just stuck in rooms at home. People don't want the marketing messages to be reflected back about fear, about everything being locked down. They want some fun things. They want to celebrate the times when they were able to get outside, when they will be able to get outside. So think about other experiences in their lives that they love, that give them joy, that give them comfort. If you can engage with those, you will build fans. And bear in mind, all those things in that presentation so far are commercializable areas. They are things that you can generate revenue from, or you can partner with someone else to build either the brand experience or a reciprocal sales cycle. So I'm going to summarize what I just said with this. Why do we want fans rather than customers, particularly in this whole COVID environment? Because, and this is my cat Jackie Doodle sat on me there on the little Bitmoji, this is because we can increase sales through loyalty. Whatever sales metric you have, whether you are a subscription, whether you are part subscription, part ad revenue, or solely ad revenue, we are all about sales. You know, we're asking people to watch our shows, and the more loyal they are, the more shows they're going to make, the better it is for your business. We're looking for return visitors to our website. we're looking for deeper engagement. I know I need going slow on the time, so I'm going to rush through. Deeper engagement. And what we do is we convert these people to free marketing. What we're asking is to get customers to become fans, and then fans become our advocates because they tell our story. It's not just individuals. And the way that we do this, I'm going to rush through now. We make content that is pertinent, rewarding, and shareable. Shareable is key. I'm going to skip over these 2 slides because I was going too slowly. But one thing that this time of lockdown, this time of uncertainty, is that as a brand, you need to be trust. You need to be authentic and real. You need to make your audience love you. So remember our filter. What does the business want? What does the brand want? What does the audience? And what do you want? Because remember, as marketers, this is your chance to shine. This is your chance. When the business is in flux, you can help define the future role that you have with it. I want to just, on the very final thoughts here, is I want to just talk about your own mental health. You're in lockdown, you're worrying, you need to look after yourself. You need to work out where you get your team motivation from. If you are working remotely with people, think about how you engage with these people and think about how you infuse creativity into your daily roles. You need to make you love yourselves as much as you make your audience love your channels. So that is in a very quick 20 minutes. We can revisit this at another point, but we believe that great briefs are the foundation of awesome creative. And if you understand your audience and you understand this time now of COVID, you will produce better work for it. That's just our website. Andy, Q&A. You're on mute, Andy.
Right. Okay, I'm here.
Do we have a couple of minutes?
We do, of course we do. All right, we have one question here. It says, hi team. Just give me a second here. It says, hi team, have viewers gone to streaming services? Is anyone still watching TV? It says.
Yeah, yes, so they have. And what I would say is in your own regions, you will have a research department within your channel. Generally, they are servicing ad sales, but ask them to give you some reports on this. Nielsen is saying it's sort of 60 to 65% uplift, and a majority of that is going to, well, it's not, a majority is the wrong word. A lot of that is going to streaming service. But remember, streaming services are great when they've got content you want to watch. Once you've churned through it, what are they doing left? And what is their business model? Because lots of them are borrowing a lot of money, and you know, what's going to happen? So yes, my answer is yes, but don't think they're not in linear TV. They are. They're definitely still in linear TV. Next question, Andy.
Okay, so this is the next one is a long one. It's from Sadashiv from India. Is the normal run the usual rush to gain market share gives two competitors the creative and communication license to be exclusive as against inclusive, and also be nasty while taking digs at competition? The current pandemic impacts either both competitors now. What would your advice be to such sparring players?
To such sparring players, I think if it's a friendly rivalry, then I wouldn't stop it just because the coronavirus is here. If you're having some banter and you're working nicely together, if it's vicious, I would use the opportunity to be the bigger person, to really connect through niceness. At this time, the world needs a bit more kindness than it does a bit more violence. But with the exclusivity message, if you've got the same title, I think what you can do as a marketer, so if you've got the same show on a different network or something, you can bring out, if it's both archives, so you've both got old series rather than original episodes, what you as a marketer can do is bring out the elements, the way you promote it, the elements that most appeal to your audience at this time. What you can do, if the other person's being nasty, is you can be much more clever. So you can think, and this is where I would say go back to those filters. Really think what the situation is for your audience right now. what would make them feel better, what would give them some pleasure, what would give them some distraction, and focus on that. Be the more exciting brand rather than the more bitchy brand.
Okay. Okay, so we have our next question from Peter Rice. Okay, he asks, with a lot of content being produced in social media every day, how do we make our audience engage in every post we produce?
And I think that's a really good question, because there is so much social media out there, and there's lots of argument and lots of debates. And I think you find what platform works for your audience, and then you start trying to super serve them. So you start trying to build a conversation. That's what social media is there for. You start trying to build a conversation, and you find out what conversation works. So on some conversations, it might be getting your talent to do funny little videos on TikTok. You know, those work well for some people. Actually, little teasers from content work well for some people. Some people, if you're kind of like quite an empathetic channel, some people just want a chat room. Lots of people, bear in mind, are alone at this moment. They're locked. I'm alone. I've been locked down for 10 weeks, and God, my own company, I'm going start raving mad. But you have to think, what is the content that works for people within your brand, and then you need to develop it. But what I would say as social media producer, for your own sanity, is you don't want to be shouting in the wind. So because you're working from home, don't think you need to up the messages. If it's fewer messages but deeper messages, I would go for that. Go for a strategy that is going to get heard rather than a load of messages that no one's reading. I think it's about being pertinent and being specific. We could do a whole session on that, actually, a whole session on social media. In fact, one of the things that I was going to say that we should do at some point, and people can send them in to us, is there are so many great pieces of creative that are about communities. I know ABC in Australia is doing some wonderful stuff that we should get from all around the regions. We should get people to send in the best bits of creative and do a show and tell about who's doing what in this COVID era. I'm digressing, aren't I, Andy? Keep me on track. Next question.
Okay, next question. Okay, someone from Anonymous. How do we make Promax Gold-winning work if we can't get out and film anything?
Okay, if we can't get out and film anything, this is a really good question. So I think this is actually a great opportunity for people. Remember, it was only the people with loads of money who won Promax Golds for shooting stuff, unless you entered in something for nothing. So I think this is a really great opportunity to think about, what are lo-fi solutions? What are things? Bear in mind that Promax champions the idea. You might win sometimes for a great execution, but it's really about great communication. So think how you can use design, how you can use typography, how you can use something like really lo-fi. How could you use flickbook animation? I'm not a creative director, so you'll get creative directors looking at me going, no way, don't do that. But you can think differently. For me, the best trails, the best pieces of communication are always things with very good copywriting. I always think that anything that reflects culture, and bear in mind we're global here, so the lines that would be written for an English audience or a British audience are not the same as what would work in Singapore or Mumbai or wherever you are. But I think there will be themes, there will be memes, there will be trends within your region that you can really hook into and that will make people smile, that people will know what they're talking about. Have I gone totally over time, Andy? Because I do want a promo for next week. Yeah.
Okay. So would you like to just mention what you'll be doing next week?
Yeah. So, ta-da! As if by magic, we've got a promo. So next week, we're going to have some real creatives talking about their creative experience and what they're doing creatively in lockdown. So I'm going to do Andy's role. I'm going to ask the questions, and we've got a great panel. I'm going to be adding more people to this panel, but it's going to be about 5 or 6 people, and we've got a combination of strategy and creative, and they're going to be talking about the challenges that they faced in Corona, but also what they've personally done creatively for their own projects and for their business projects that has made their lives better throughout it. That's me. I know we've gone over a bit on time, and I apologize for whatever happened with the technology. It worked perfectly this morning when we rehearsed it. But thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you, Tim. And thank you for being here with us today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you have any suggestion or comment how we can be better, email to webinar@promaxasia.tv. That's webinar@promaxasia.tv. Do join Tim and his guests next week. Until then, have a great week.